My fiance, female 26, and I, male 30, are getting married soon. Wedding planning has been not quite what I expected. My fiance and I disagreed on many things. It turns out she was getting her wealthy girlfriends involved and heavily considering their suggestions for the kind of wedding we should have. She made a list of rules that she would print out and send with the invitation, but wanted to see my family first to give them a preview. My parents and I sat and listened as my fiance read out the following rules. One that stuck out to me was the rule about not inviting any pregnant family members to the wedding. That would be my two sisters, whom I'm very close to and want at my wedding. I was shocked. I asked why she wanted to exclude my sisters, and she said, because they're pregnant? Need I say more? As in they were going to take attention away from the bride, but they're not even showing. She said her friends say it's important not to invite pregnant women to the wedding. I said I disagreed with their reasoning and I wanted my sisters there with me. She said their husbands could still come if I wanted, but I said no. She said sorry, I wouldn't let those two come. But the good news was that I got to invite two maybe friends or coworkers to take their place. I blew up and said she was unreasonable, acting like a damn bridezilla, which wasn't a good thing. She gasped and was like, ugh, no way. Then proceeded to ask me to explain exactly how she was a bridezilla for simply coming up with totally reasonable rules and expecting my family to follow them. I stated that I got a say as the groom and insisted that I wanted my supportive sisters at my wedding and I wasn't willing to risk my relationship with them. She called me a hypocrite for claiming she wants things her way while wanting things my way. She said my sisters would understand, but claimed they were more important than her, obviously. She refused to discuss it any further and left. My parents said they respect her decision since she is the bride, and although my sisters will feel hurt, they will respect the bride and not come. If you marry this woman after this, you are the idiot. She wants to exclude your sisters because her wealthy friend said no pregnant women? How will this marriage work? Does everything have to be run by her friends for approval? Holy crap! They're going to take attention away from her because they're pregnant? Run, OP, and don't think of the time wasted with her. Think of the time saved in the future if she's this inconsiderate and selfish. Not the idiot, for now. You will be the idiot if you actually marry that absolute horror of a woman, though. Who gets threatened by the thought of being upstaged by two pregnant women? It sounds like she always has to be the center of attention and is a complete narcissist. My reply would have been, actually, not hurting the feelings of both my loyal sisters is more important than your bridezilla demands. Maybe you should tell her to uninvite her own siblings and see if she thinks it's reasonable. Wow, not the idiot. I didn't even have to read the whole thing, but I did. The second I got to, she was going to print out rules and send with the invitation, I knew she was a bridezilla. If I ever received a wedding invite with a list of rules to follow, beyond how formal I should dress, I would immediately RSVP no. She is out of control. This is what the rest of your life will be like if you marry her. There's nothing totally reasonable about banning pregnant women from a wedding. Newsflash, this is your wedding too. I imagine that to keep the peace, you have given in on several of these ridiculous rules. Don't give in on this one. Call her bluff. My sisters are coming, period. See how far she's willing to go. Bet she's not willing to cancel her special Princess for a Day event to get her way. This really is horrible. I've never heard of anything like it outside of a stupid TV show. My husband and I have been married for 10 years, and our son is our only child. And for the past 10 years, I thought that he was my husband's only child as well. However, in May, my husband was getting an honorary doctorate at a local university he's had a long relationship with, business-wise and otherwise. My son and I were in the audience. After the reception, we were walking out when a man walked up to us. He apologized to my husband and said he didn't mean to ambush anybody, but he just wanted to talk to him. My husband looked shocked, and when my husband didn't answer, the man called him Dad and begged him to just talk to him and said he was here to say he was sorry again. My husband recovered and then said the man's name and asked how he was, if he was taking care of himself. The man kept saying, "Can I talk to you, please?" My husband asked him for his phone number, and said he had to get us home, but he'd call him later. After we got home, he broke the news to me that this guy was his 29-year-old son and that he was the product of a relationship with a girlfriend when he was much younger, stupider, and coming out of a bad upbringing, and that his girlfriend was on sugars and serially depressed and wanted marriage but refused to work on her depression. So they broke up when his son was little, but he stayed in his son's life until he was a teen and then lost contact. When I asked why he never told me about his kid or stayed in his life, he said that many things happened and he couldn't get past some of the things his son did that really disappointed him. He wouldn't elaborate further, and I knew I would get nowhere if I pushed him. I told him that my son deserved to know that he had a half-brother, and he was already confused. So we told our son, but that all backfired when my son asked why he never knew about him, and my husband admitted that he had decided that the school his son was attending was no good. His son was interested in foreign languages, so he enrolled him in a private school. He said his son's mother complained endlessly about her son being 4 hours away, and his son started doing badly and not appreciating his opportunity for a better life. He started distancing from peers and would constantly talk about homesickness and let it affect his studies. Finally, he begged his son to stay the course and use his education to get into a top college. But his son ended up getting near flunking grades, not listening to his father's pleas to work hard, and then dropping out to re-enroll in a public school. My husband said that broke his heart, and they didn't talk for a while. And in that while, his son ended up dropping out of public school as well, and they haven't talked since. Then, to my horror, my husband told my son that his half-brother had the opportunity to be a good kid and make his dad proud, get a high-paying job, but now he works as a long-haul trucker. I tried to interject to say that you can also have a good life and meet good people doing those jobs, but my husband glared at me. My son responded by saying that he gets all A's and he reads and understands all the books that my husband loves. I asked my husband if he was going to talk to his son. My husband said no, and that his mother poisoned his mind and set him up for failure by complaining about missing him, and that he gave him many chances to do well. Instead, he blew it in favor of becoming a cashier to support his mom and blamed him for sending him to a good school. A month passes and his son reaches out to me on my Instagram page. We talked, and I felt bad because he seemed like a kind, respectful man who was just desperately sad. He told me the same thing my husband told me, but also went into detail about the many times he tried to talk to my husband, how he showed up at my husband's office but was told my husband was out, and how he was told he screwed up and blew his chances but just wanted his dad, and how his dad had changed his number and pulled the "give me your number" card before, but he kept hoping that time would soften his dad. He also said he didn't want money, and his mother had taken her own life recently, and he just wanted a parent. He made enough to support himself, and that he would also love to connect with his half-brother, my son. Our son has told me that he wants to meet this man if he is his brother, but at the same time, he has become terrified of losing his father's love. My husband told me that he didn't think he was the paternal type when we were dating, but he doted over our son after I got pregnant. Our son is a very sensitive boy, and starting from a young age, he impressed his father with his ability to memorize things he heard or read. He loves me, but he adores time with his dad because I don't work and my husband travels for business. And now my son is swinging wildly between wanting to meet this half-brother and sate his curiosity and fear over his father's reaction. He says that he just wants to be loved by the people in his family, including any brothers or sisters, but that he's afraid of losing his father's love, as his half-brother did, and that he also kind of hates his half-brother for making my husband upset. What do? I am appalled at my husband's treatment of his older son, and I want my son to be able to say that he had an opportunity to get to know somebody he wanted to get to know. But my husband is adamant against giving his older son attention and is still angry about how he felt his son betrayed him and his efforts to provide him with a better life than the one he had with his mom. OP, your son now knows his father's love is conditional. That's just a fact. Frankly, I don't understand how you can stand to be in a room with a man that would abandon his child for such selfish reasons, let alone stay married to him. It just proves he'll happily do the same to your son and you if you make the mistake of disappointing him. You have reached a crossroads in your life and your son's life. Make the right decision. Your husband really sounds like an idiot. He won't forgive his son for the choices he made as a teenager? He sounds horrible. I feel so bad for your stepson. I would do everything possible to bring your stepson into the family. Your husband needs to see that he's the one making a mistake. I'm sorry, OP. Please get your son into counseling as well. He'll need it as he grows because his father's love is conditional. Your husband is a monster who doesn't understand love. I kept waiting for the big, terrible thing that his oldest son had done, and nothing. He did nothing wrong, and your husband punished him because he wasn't exactly who he wanted him to be, and because he didn't behave exactly as he wanted him to behave. I'm so sorry you're learning this about your husband now. Get your son some counseling because it's needed to counter your husband's damaging influence. I, 32 female, just received an invite to my cousin Alex's, 30 female, wedding. It stated on the invite that the wedding was child-free. I'm not new to child-free weddings, but what has me frustrated is that there will be children in the wedding. Alex plans on having her and her future husband's 33 nieces and nephews at their wedding. I overheard her asking her sister if her niece could be the flower girl at a family get-together. This confused me because child-free means no children. So I called Alex and asked. I told her and said if her nieces and nephews are going, then my little daughter, similar in age to her nieces and nephews, should be allowed to go too. Alex said that only those in the bridal party are the exception and that she wants her nieces and nephews at the wedding. When I asked why they could come and not my daughter, she said she knows her nieces and nephews are well behaved, so there will be no issues. She also knows her sister and brother-in-law's parents very well. And to top it off, she's a teacher who wants a day where she doesn't have to deal with the children of others. She also said she was closer to them. I told her that her reasoning was ridiculous because child-free means no kids, including her nieces and nephews. Alex told me I was more than welcome to decline the invite, so I did. Ended up venting to my mother, married to Alex's dad's brother, and while she didn't agree with Alex, she said she could understand her feelings. However, my dad didn't like it and called her dad, my Uncle Mitch, asking why my daughter couldn't come. Mitch told my dad that it was Alex's wedding and she could do as she pleases. He also said cousins are not the same as nieces and nephews, especially since they're in the bridal party. My dad said since Mitch is paying for it, he should talk Alex into allowing children, but he declined and said that he and my aunt don't believe paying for the wedding gives them a say. And even if it did, he agrees with Alex. This upset my dad, so he then told other family members. So now several members are upset that Alex and her future husband's nieces and nephews will be there, but no one else is allowed to bring their children. We have a fairly large family, and we all watch each other's children, so finding childcare will be difficult. Most of the family say it's Alex's wedding, and her reasons make sense. But I and some of my cousins refuse to attend. Alex doesn't seem to care one way or the other. One cousin told Alex she was bringing her child anyway, to which Alex said, "Make sure you wear sneakers so it's easier on your feet when you're escorted back to your car," which is how we found out that she has the security guard from her school checking the guest list and that he knows not to let any children in. Am I the idiot? This has made me laugh. It's her wedding, not some admissions policy for a restaurant. You've basically tried to speak to the manager to demand your way at someone's wedding. Drop it before you create any more drama. Yes, you are the idiot. I loved how her dad tried to convince the bride's dad to leverage paying for the wedding to force extended family members to be allowed to bring their kids as well. The policy the bride has is pretty standard for a child-free wedding. However, many of them still include close family kids or kids in the wedding party. Every action taken by OP and those on her side drips with entitlement. I hope some of them try and show up with their kids and end up being escorted out. You are the idiot. It's her wedding, and she gets to decide who can come or not. You complaining to your parents and having your dad call her dad to complain is childish. It might seem unfair, but it's her wedding, and you don't have any right to argue with her about any decisions that she makes. If you don't agree with her rules, then do exactly what she said. Don't go. She isn't forcing you to do anything you don't have to do. It genuinely baffles me why people are so keen to take their children to weddings. Bonus, OP, if you don't go, you can help watch the children in the family whose parents do attend. This is perfect. You don't have to leave your child at home, and it solves the babysitting issue you presented. You should be happy to offer an ideal solution for everyone, right? Or do you want to complain that you're not getting your way on someone else's wedding day? Info: have you always been the family pain in the butt? Your behavior is awful, and you just need to stop. Alex can invite who she wants. You don't have to get a say. You don't get to cause family trouble. It makes you look bad. Stay home so the adults can have a nice time. Grow up. So my ex has never had to cook or clean for himself. He has always had someone else to do it for him. I know he can cook at least one dish though, since he did during one of our previous dates. Right now I'm 6 months pregnant, and my ex wants us to live together for the first year of our son's life. I agreed because he had a good argument, and I know I'll be glad for the help. Things were fine until he told me that he thought I should move in with him now. I told him I wouldn't move in with him, and if he wanted to live together, he would have to move in with me. He argued against it and kept insisting that things would be easier for both of us if we lived in his home, since he had more space and neither of us would have to worry about cooking or cleaning. Eventually, he did agree and gave me a list of requirements his cook had. I was confused, so I asked him what that had to do with me. He then told me that his cook would have to work in my kitchen while living with me, so I needed to make sure I had everything ready for them. I told him I hadn't agreed to that, and he brushed it off by making a joke about us still having to eat and him not being one of those jerks who expects me to do everything right after giving birth. I told him no, and he asked me who would do the cooking and cleaning if I refused his offer to have help. I told him we would split it 50-50, like normal people. He got annoyed and told me he didn't have time to cook or clean, and that I shouldn't be doing it right after giving birth. It turned into an argument that ended when I told him he would have to cook and clean if he wanted to live with me after our son was born. He told me he would think about it in an angry tone and hasn't spoken to me since. Just in case people ask, I don't want the cook and cleaner to come to my house because A, my home is small and it'll get overcrowded fast, especially since I know both of our families will be over a lot. B, I feel like the cook and cleaner is just a stepping stone. He has way more people who run his household, and I feel like he's too dependent on them, so he'll expect me to be okay with them working in my home too. C, it isn't hard to clean my home. It's small, and cooking for two doesn't take a lot. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. I can understand wanting to stay at your place, but why are you trying to control how your ex eats? If he's in a position where he can afford a personal cook, there is zero reason for you to forbid him from doing what he always does. Your reasoning makes no sense. If you aren't comfortable with having the cook in your place, then your ex is right, and you should go live at his place. As soon as the baby arrives, you are going to be so happy to not only have your ex there to help out, you will also be glad that you don't have to worry about cleaning and cooking. The reason is stated that it's because she doesn't want the cook and cleaner in her house among the other workers he has. She doesn't want to move into his house. If things should go sour, it'll be much more difficult for her to move out with the baby than to have the ex take his things and leave. Some people don't like the idea of random people around their children constantly and don't want to be waited on hand and foot. OP is not the idiot. Agree. Honestly, I would hate this. The idea of random people in my space gives me so much anxiety. Having to always be on because I'm not comfortable in my own home sounds like a nightmare. OP, don't move in with your ex. Cooking and cleaning aside, he's an ex for a reason, and having a kid together is a terrible reason to cohabitate. Tell him you've changed your mind and you'll work a visitation schedule through the courts after birth, and mean it. You are not the idiot, but please don't move in with someone willing to tell you what will change and how without consulting you.